My wife and I live out in the country on a 42-acre farm. It's a bird farm, which you'll see in a moment. I recently had the opportunity to review the 2019 GMC Sierra 1500, and instead of doing a typical car video where I talk about horsepower and stats, I decided to try just using the truck around the farm. GMC dropped off both a Denali and an AT4. This one is the Denali. I'm going to use both trucks for stuff we need done around here, then I'll give you my impressions. If you're not interested in farm chores, skip ahead to the end of the video or watch the shorter version. The main farmhouse is heated with wood. We've got a full shed for this year's winter, but I need to start harvesting wood for next winter. My plan is to set up a new drying stack here in our back pasture. The truck should come in handy here. I picked up some discarded pallets from a local business. This was my first opportunity to use GMC's Multi-Pro Tailgate. It's got this step that folds right out of it, and I found it incredibly convenient. Here I've driven some of the pallets down to the pole barn and am getting them into place. For the actual firewood, one of our neighbors cut down a damaged tree in our bottomlands. Then it was just a lot of limbing and bucking, and a lot of loading. The truck's got the spray-on bed liner so you can just chuck stuff in there. The spray-on is more expensive than the drop-in, but at least you don't have to worry about water getting underneath it. And you don't have to be gentle with it. With the regular tailgate, I'm always subconsciously avoiding climbing into the bed because it's a hassle. But the Multi-Pro tailgate is like having a staircase into the back of your truck, super convenient. Here I'm just moving stuff to the front of the bed so I can fit a full load. I made 3 trips up to the pole barn, and I estimate each load was about 1,000 pounds. Every time I got into the truck to back it up, I reflexively turned to look over my shoulder before remembering that I've got this killer surround vision camera system in the dashboard. More on that later. If you look at the left side of the screen here, you can see the muddy bog that has to be crossed to get out of the bottomlands. It may not look like much, but that's the spot on this property where vehicles get stuck. The AT4, with its off-road tires, never even came close to getting stuck. Then it was just a lot of unloading, a lot of splitting, and a lot of stacking. So over the years there have been multiple tenants on this farm, and it is shocking the amount of junk that can pile up just in various junk piles around the property and things I pulled out of the woods. I'm going to show you a little bit of what I've been gathering. And now that I've got the truck, which you can see in the background there, I'm going to start hauling the stuff off. So the first task is going to be gathering everything and then separating it. Pieces of a washing machine, found an air compressor, a derelict lawnmower here that weeds have started to grow around, got a barbecue grill. Really look behind every bush and you're gonna find plastic somewhere on this property. You find a lot of children's stuff in the woods, also ashtrays. So this was everything I could find that was made out of plastic, and now it's time to haul it off to the recycling center. The Sierra's got a little bit more room than my wagon. One issue is it's a very windy day and I don't want that stuff blowing out of the bed, so I think I'm actually going to try to bag as much of it as possible, and then I'll either tarp it or try to hold everything down with straps. So Luna the farm dog has come to inspect my work. Am I doing a good job? Alright, step aside, sweetie, come on. I think if anything is going to fly off and maybe cause trouble, it's going to be that kiddie pool, so I'm going to get the tarp. Here's another very cool feature. So you saw the automatic step deploy when I open the door, and I want to use it to get over the side of the truck bed so that I can access the tie-down points. So check this out. It's very convenient. I'm clicking right by the tie-down points there. Everything in the back is tarped, and all of the paper recycling we're able to throw into the cabin because it's huge. It just swallows cargo. So that's it, and away we go. Ironically, after getting rid of all that plastic, I had to bring a huge piece of plastic back. My wife spotted this enormous PVC pipe being discarded at a construction site and asked me to grab it. It's going to be used to temporarily quarantine sick chickens. The best thing about a pickup is obviously the open bed, but there's a lot to be said for the crew cab too when it comes to hauling stuff. With the rear seats folded up, there is a lot of room in the back where you can put stuff that you want to keep out of the rain. And accessing it is a lot easier than climbing in and out of the bed. Also, because of the way our property is laid out, it's more convenient to get a truck alongside the feed shed rather than backing up to it, so I found that unloading from the side is faster here. Here's another piece of cargo I never anticipated carrying. Holy cow.
Is there an egg?
Yes.
Wahoo!
Can I grab it?
You want to grab it? Sure.
Well, there's an emu egg.
Be very careful with it.
Okay. Do you want to hold it? It's heavy.
Thank you.
Yep. Curious to see if the emu egg fits in the cup holder. Now, we haven't had any luck hatching emu chicks, but if this egg is viable and comes to term, I guess we'll name it GMC cup holder. I've got a pretty dirty job coming up that I'm going to use the Denali for, but first I wanted to finish up with the scrap metal. Okay, so Edric and I are loading the truck up with scrap metal, as much as we can find on the property. We drove it over to a neighbor who sells it, and he uses the money to support the local high school sports program. That's the cool thing about living in a small community. People help each other out down here. The next morning I loaded up all of the junk that's going to the dump. It's super nice to have these bed lights in the truck for when you're working at night or getting an early start like I'm doing here. These two fellas work at the dump and came over to look at the truck. They were fascinated by the tailgate and asked me a lot of questions about it. And now that the property's a little cleaner, it is time to get this truck dirty. This is a $67,000 GMC Sierra 1500 Denali. This is chicken poop. We have a lot of birds on the property. So the chicken coop needs to be mucked out, and that muck is not waste, it's actually very useful fertilizer. We've got some neighbors who do not have chickens and would love to use it come spring when they get their garden set. So today we're just going to muck out the coop. I'm going to load it into the bed of the pickup, and we're going to move it up to a different part of the property that's easier for the neighbors to access. They could just back their truck up and help themselves. So we're just going to need some stuff here. I'm sorry about the mud, GMC, but I did warn you I was going to get this truck dirty. When I'm working with chicken poop, I really like the smell of it and I like breathing in that dust, but when I work, I want my face to be as sweaty as possible, and I also like my vision to be obscured by a foggy plastic screen, so I'm going to wear one of these. For demonstration purposes, here I'll pretend I can't access the rear of the truck and need to load from the side. Now, if you're a shorter guy like me, you just can't get the bucket up over the high sidewall of a modern truck. Some trucks have a little flip-out step, but I prefer something wide and stable because I'm kind of clumsy. Typically, I'd use a plastic stool like this. However, with this model of pickup, the step stool is unnecessary. The reason I'm using the Denali is because it features GMC's Multi-Pro Power Step. Even if the rail is tucked away under the body, you just kick the button on the end of it, and it deploys both outwards and backwards towards the bed. This is a really brilliant piece of design and engineering. It's just a super useful feature. Okay, so you may be wondering why I'm loading this bed up with fertilizer. We're moving it to another part of the property. It's more accessible, and also because with this fancy and very functional multi-pro tailgate, it's got like a lot of little nooks and crannies in it. You know, this button for the handle, the step comes out, and I wanted to see when this stuff gets all clogged up, when I'm rinsing it out with a hose, I want to see if this ends up capturing any of that junk or if it's easy to clean out. You see there's a lot of little places for stuff to get jammed up. So I'll continue adding some more to this pile, and then we'll take it to the car wash after we get rid of this load. The second thing I wanted to demonstrate is loading the bed using the Multi-Pro tailgate. Here I'm dumping everything close to the cab because at this point I was under the illusion that I was going to fill the entire bed. Anyways, it is nice to be able to use the step, and I think that once you try it, you're not going to want to go back to a truck with a regular tailgate. For messy stuff like this, where the tailgate and the step are starting to get slippery, there's a convenient handle you can fold out. It just makes getting in and out of the truck a little easier. Okay, so we are now going to store the chicken poop inside of this derelict Mercedes. I'm just kidding. My wife asked me to place the pile in a particular spot near the edge of the driveway. This truck has got the spray-on bed liner, which is great because I don't have to worry about scratching it. Not being gentle with this bed. So whatever you do, don't capture this footage of me with the respirator off, getting fed up with the thing because I don't want the safety trolls leaving comments, but I'm not putting that goddamn thing back on. So the car wash is not going to be happy with us either way. Do you think that that's close enough? Okay. That's not a bad size pile. Whew. That smells ripe. Thanks, GMC. My feet are slippery with poop. Do you mind doing the driving?
Yeah, no problem.
Alright, so Edric, I am 90% sure that this is where my wife told me to leave the pile. If this is not the right spot and I screwed it up, can I blame it on you?
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you. So I finished getting the bed relatively clean, and then we're going to take this thing off to the car wash. One thing I'm concerned about, so much crap fell down in this gap. I wondered, well, let's find out. Is it make it difficult to close the tailgate when it's full of poop? Oh, that closed. And that closed too. So let's take it to the wash and find out. Okay, so cleaning off the tailgate is actually a little bit more work than a regular tailgate, but as you can see with the hose, it was no problem. Okay, so what did I learn from all of this? The 2019 GMC Sierra 1500 has a host of amazing design features. Some of these features can be found on competing trucks, but others are exclusive and really set GMC's designers apart from the competition. Here I'll run down a list of my favorites. The bed lights come in handy if you're getting an early start or having a late night. If you want your bed's interior to last, I'd say the spray-on bed liner is a must. In fact, I wish the entire truck was painted in the spray-on bed liner, then you wouldn't have to worry about scratching it. There are a lot of tie-down points in here. We got 3 on each side in the back, 3 in the front, and then these panels here I believe are optional tie-down. So, I mean, already there's 12 in it and you can get another 6, so that'd be 18. One thing I really like about the door handles is that there is a physical button that you can click, and it's on all 4 doors. It's even on the rear passenger side door. On most cars, like on my wagon, it's not a physical button. It's just this sort of little indentation. And you see how it took me like a couple tries to get that? That's why I prefer having the physical button with the tactile feedback. You can feel it click in. Here's a nice design detail, actually 2 of them. One is that they've got this footwell in the bumper you can fit a boot right into. And up here, where you grab, guys, come on, knock it off. Right here where you grab, if you look down into this opening, typically this is just a rectangle, but the designers have taken the time to sort of cut this little angle on a smooth, round edge there so that you're not pinching your finger in a corner as you grab this to pull yourself up. That's a nice little detail. Did you guys get out of here? Jeez Louise. Okay, there is a crazy amount of storage inside this truck. In addition to the pockets in the door well, you've got another little hidden pocket down here by your leg. The designers took the time and thought about it, and they set this really nice angle in the compartment where you can set your cell phone down. And that just about places it at what I think is the perfect angle, not for you to look at while driving, but just so that when you're, stopped, and if you're doing work, you can glance down and see your phone's screen. It's actually got underneath the phone wireless charging capacity. In the center, you've got this ridiculously massive console. This thing is so big you could rent it out on Airbnb. You got dual glove boxes, One up top, one below. Passenger side has also got, of course, the bins in the door. And as well, let me try to get the camera around. There's another large compartment right down here. There is no sunglass storage up top, but there's plenty of other places to put a pair, including this recessed compartment here. These two circular compartments can be used to hold drinks, emu eggs, or ostrich eggs. The crew cab's rear storage is voluminous. The rear seats easily flip up, and underneath them is a handy storage tray that runs the full width of the cabin. It'll hold a chainsaw or a rifle, no problem. Now here's a really brilliant feature. GMC's designers have turned that dead space behind the seats into very handy storage compartments. On both sides, of course. This is where I kept all of the ratchet straps, bungees, and tie-down stuff. The center panel folds down to serve as an armrest, featuring cup holders and a rectangular compartment that you can drop a phone or a gadget into. The console in front of the rear seats has more cup holders and controls for the heated rear seats, 2 types of USB ports, a cigarette lighter power outlet, and the vents. With the seats folded up, there is a ridiculous amount of room. Particularly if you're used to a single cab pickup, where the only thing you can fit behind the seat is a clipboard, you will be spoiled by the amount of space in a Sierra crew cab. I was literally losing tools back here, and that's a great problem to have. Now, with the design of the center console, there is a lot going on here, but I actually don't mind it. Although it's dense, it's not chaotic, and it's pretty well considered, I feel. At this level, we basically have the monitor and the stereo controls. This is basically the climate control level. And then down at the bottom, we've got this array of buttons. These are all functions to do with the vehicle. You got the parking assist, the automatic tailgate opening, the hazards, of course, traction control on off. I do prefer that these are physical buttons rather than some kind of menu that you have to turn a dial and scroll through to get to. I like the immediacy of being able to hit these things. Down here, there are plenty of power options. You've got the 2 USB connections, you've got the cigarette lighter adapter, and then of course you've got 110 with a 3-prong, which is nice. So overall, although this seems like a lot, I am confident that if I actually owned the vehicle or spent a long amount of time with it, I would gradually sort of automatically learn where these things were, and I much prefer having a physical button wherever possible. Okay, so this is kind of tricky to shoot, but you could see in the mirror, obviously you can see me holding the phone shooting, but you can also see a hint of a car back there. That's my wagon. And if I turn this to camera mode, you can see the car clear as day. You're not seeing the rear seat headrests with a rear window frame. Furthermore, you can set the brightness with these 2 buttons here, and you can also set the magnification if I wanted to zoom in on this or zoom out. Now, the biggest hassle of a full-size truck is trying to see what's around you, and GM's surround vision system completely removes this hassle. I can easily see everything around me, which is super useful on a farm, and would certainly be handy if you had a bunch of kids running around. It's also got these guidelines on the screen that show you precisely where the vehicle would fit. I can't stress how useful this is. I'm trying to back up down a road that's been curving, and if you can see when I turn the wheel, the yellow lines in that top view even show you the arc of the front corner of the truck. Extremely helpful. This is super useful for backing up to a tight spot and you want to put the truck in exactly the position you want. And at night, in an unlit area, the truck's backup lights provide plenty of illumination for you to see by. Edric took the truck to a parking lot to try the surround vision system there.
This button right here shows the view on both sides of the truck. So you can see how close you are to the curb or to that line.
Here he's clicking through the different camera options. I cannot stress enough how useful the Multi-Pro tailgate is. I found myself using the step component all the time. It's got some other configurations that I didn't have any use for, but you might. It all depends on what you're using the truck for. One disappointment with the tailgate is this cargo stop. It's a cool idea, but it's just shy of 8 feet, meaning you can't use it to hold a 4x8 sheet in place. Now, I don't have a sheet of plywood handy, but I just grabbed an 8-foot long 1x2 just to illustrate. And you can see where it would end up. So if we were to pull this stop up, it's just a little bit too short of a distance to get a full sheet of plywood. I'd say it's about 2.5 inches. Now you may be wondering, why did GMC's designers do this? Didn't they realize that people would want to carry sheet goods? Of course they must have, but you know, the answer is mass production. This is basically The GMC Sierra is at some point in the factory process identical to the Chevy Silverado, which has certain dimensions, and they couldn't make a tailgate longer, or obviously it would be taller when you closed it. So this is a sort of compromise that they had to live with. That being said, the step feature makes the tailgate an absolute winner for me. If I had the money for this level of truck, the tailgate alone would make me buy this truck over the competition. Having a functional staircase into the bed vastly increases its utility, and in my opinion, it's a game changer. The reason I put the power step at number 1 is simply because you use it every time you get in and out of the truck, and it is dang useful. Not to mention the magic trick where it goes backwards and lets you access the bed. By the way, the power step can only be ordered with the Denali. Okay, so here's a design feature I'd like to see. I'm often coming back to the truck with both hands full. I got a tool in one hand, and I want to be able to open up the door handle without fear of this tool striking the paint and damaging it. If so, I don't know what the designers could do it, but if there was some kind of protective area around the door, some way for me to get this door open with a tool in one hand and not have to worry about scratching the paint, that'd be great. You'll notice I use both the Denali and the more off-road minded AT4 in this video, yet haven't commented on the differences. That's because, for liability reasons, I wasn't allowed to put either truck through a proper off-road test where the differences would become sharp and the AT4 would dominate. In my casual farm use, the only differences I noticed were that the AT4's off-road tires obviously navigate the property better than the Denali street tires, and only the Denali has the power step. The AT4 is 2 inches taller, and since it doesn't have the power step, it's a bit of a climb to get into it. If I had the budget and had to choose between these two models, I couldn't live without the power step for the kind of stuff I'd be doing, so I'd pick the Denali, but I'd put a good set of off-road tires on it. In my opinion, that would be the perfect work truck. I don't care about the luxury stuff, I just love the functionality. Now there's a lot of things that I didn't cover in this video because there are already videos out there by proper truck guys, and the experts do a way better job at that stuff than I could. But I didn't see many videos where they were using a truck the way I'd need to, or talking about the design features, those little details that you have to live with every day, and those are pretty important to me when I'm making a purchasing decision. I can't speak to what it's like to live with this truck long term, but after 2 weeks I can tell you that GMC's designers deserve credit for really sweating the details of the user experience. This is a fantastic truck, and I learned that you should never try to shoot a truck video when there's turkeys around. So, for the purposes of this video, so there's still plenty of mucking left to do, but shut up. Guys, I'm trying to shoot a video here. Would you get out of my shot, please? You guys want to be in the video that bad, huh? Fine, you happy? Stop following me.